When I married Julia, I thought I was marrying love itself. She came with 2 children from her first marriage, Emma, 15, and Liam, 12. From beginning, I knew being a stepfather wouldn't be easy, but I promised myself I'd love them as my own. For years, I bent over backward to make sure they had everything. I paid for private school, new clothes, summer camps, trips to places they dreamed about. I worked late into the night just to afford the life Julia and her children wanted. And though they never called me Dad, I thought eventually they'd see I was more than a wallet, more than just a man who happened to marry their mother. But the day the truth surfaced, it was like a blade in the chest. It started at dinner, over something small. I asked Liam to finish his homework before playing video games. He rolled his eyes and muttered, "You're not my dad." I only answered to my real father. The word stung, but what hurt more was Emma chiming in, nodding with smug certainty. "Yeah, we only listen to Mom and Dad. Not you." I turned to Julia, waiting for her to correct them, to tell them respect mattered. Instead, she shrugged, sipping her wine as if it wasn't her responsibility. "They're right," she said casually. "They shouldn't have to answer to you. You're not their biological parent." For a long moment, the world seemed to spin. Everything I had done, the tuition payments, the bills in my name, the roof over our heads, it all suddenly felt invisible, worthless. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply nodded, excused myself, and went to bed that night with a heart heavier than stone. The next morning, I acted. I changed the locks on the house. I canceled every credit card tied to my accounts. The streaming services, the gym memberships, the private school tuition, all of it was stopped. The cars, the phones, every privilege I'd paid for, they vanished overnight. By evening, Julia and her kids were locked out of the house, confused and furious. When they finally confronted me, Julia exploded. "How dare you do this to my children?" "Your children?" I said quietly. "You mean the ones who told me I'm nothing to them? The ones you agreed don't have an answer to me? You're right, Julia. I'm not their father, which means nothing here is my responsibility anymore." Her face flushed red, but before she could retort, her phone buzzed on the counter. A message popped up, bold and cruel in its timing. I saw the name before she could snatch it away. Daniel. The name twisted in my mind. Daniel, her ex-husband, the children's father. "Give me the phone," I said, my voice low, controlled. "No," she snapped, clutching to her chest. I wrestled it from her, ignoring her protests, and scrolled through the messages. My blood ran cold. For months, she had been sneaking behind my back, meeting with Daniel. It wasn't just about the kids. The messages were explicit, filled with words and promises no wife should send to another man, least of all her ex. It hit me all at once. Her children's defiance, their sudden boldness in dismissing me, her easy agreement that I had no authority. It all made sense now. She had been feeding them this narrative, grooming them to disrespect me while rekindling a secret affair with their father. The betrayal was complete. I dropped the phone onto the counter, the sound echoing in the silence. It wasn't enough to humiliate me as a stepfather. You had to betray me as a husband, too. Julia stammered, reaching for excuses, but I was already walking away. For years, I had given everything, money, time, love. And in return, I had been nothing but a placeholder until the moment she decided to crawl back to the man who had once abandoned her. I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I simply called my lawyer the next morning and set the divorce papers in motion. When Julia realized I was serious, the panic set in. She begged, pleaded, promised it was a mistake. Emma and Liam, suddenly aware that their comfort had been built on my sacrifices, tried to soften their words, but it was too late. The respect, the love, the loyalty, they had burned it all. I signed the house back into my name alone. I kept my money, my peace, my dignity. Julia and her children moved in with Daniel, the man they had chosen over me long before I realized it. It should have hurt more than it did. But as I sat alone in my quiet house, free from the weight of ungratefulness and betrayal, I felt something I hadn't in years. Relief. Sometimes life doesn't tear things apart. It reveals what was already broken. And once the truth is clear, you can finally stop patching cracks that were never meant to hold. I had been a husband, a stepfather, a provider, a fool. But not anymore. Now I was free.